to another episode of the CattleUSA Daily Podcast. Thank you for being here on this amazing Wednesday. Today, we are going to dive right in and talk about something super important in the beef industry, cattle handling. The beef industry has worked for decades to improve how we handle cattle at every single stage of production. From feed yards to packers, we've seen some really solid progress when it comes to animal welfare, facility design, transportation methods, all of those things over recent years. But there's one area that each and every one of us listening has direct control over: handling at the ranch level. So often we focus on things like genetic, nutrition, herd health, and those are all super important things. But how often do we actually take a moment to think about how we're handling our cattle? The truth is, what we do on the ranch has a big impact on meat quality, not just in terms of bruising or dark cutters, but also things like tenderness, marbling, and just overall consumer satisfaction. So, here is what we're going to break down today: how handling directly impacts meat quality, some simple steps that we can all take to improve our practices, the actual cost of poor handling, and then what we're doing right and the areas that we can still improve. I do want to start by saying that this isn't about reinventing the wheel. It's about refining the stuff that we're already doing to make sure the beef that we're working really, really hard to produce stays top of the line. Now, when we talk about handling's impact on meat quality, we're really just talking about stress, both short-term stress, or you'll also hear it as acute stress sometimes, and then long-term stress, which is also called chronic stress. Short-term stress is super critical because that is what the stress is during the last 24 hours right before harvest. When cattle experience stress, it burns through these things called glycogen reserves, or glycogen stores. You'll hear it as both as well. And that is a problem because muscle glycogen is key for good quality meat. After slaughter, glycogen breaks down into lactic acid, which lowers the pH of muscle. This whole process is what gives us great color, texture, and flavor in the meat. But if we stress the cattle, they end up with high pH meat, which is dark, dry, and tough. And that's what we call DCB, or dark cutting beef. Research actually shows that when cattle are exposed to rough handling or stress within hours of slaughter, are up to 75% more likely to end up with DCB. On the short-term side, things like poor weaning, excessive handling before the cattle ever get to the feedlot, that stuff can also reduce marbling. Increased toughness or just decrease weight gain, which none of us want. And all of that leads to lower quality beef, and in the long run can just cost us money. So what does this mean for us? It means that the sooner we address stress in the production cycle, the better the quality of beef is that we can produce. The good news is we've made great progress, but there's always room for improvement. And the even better news, small changes can make a big difference. So here are some practical adjustments everyone can make today. I want you all to evaluate your weaning practices and develop a low-stress protocol that works for your operation. And I'm not going to say that XYZ things are what you need to do for your weaning practices. I'm just saying evaluate what you have and do what works best for your operation. There are a ton of really great resources out there, and people like Temple Grandin or just any other university or extension offices are going to have some really awesome current research on weaning protocols that are working really, really well. You can also introduce handling early. Calves that have calm human interaction at a very young age are just easier to handle as they go throughout their life. You can use some low-stress methods when processing calves, so things like no loud noises, no fast movements, no pressure when doing things like branding, preconditioning, vaccines, like stuff like that. You can also, if possible, use curved alleys or solid-sided chutes. I know this isn't possible for everyone, but if you're redoing your facilities or looking at something new, really look at those things. They just keep cattle moving and they can't see the distractions around them. The next thing is make sure that footing is solid. Slips and falls just increase bruises and stress, which means lower carcass value overall. I also do want to say that lighting matters as well. Things like shadows or sudden changes in lighting can just cause cattle to balk. And so lighting within chutes, lighting within loadouts, all of that stuff can make a huge difference, even though it seems so small. You also, just as a producer, need to understand things like flight zones and pressure points, that overuse of hot shots or overcrowding can also increase stress. You also need to be consistent with your handling. Cattle learn quick and are easier to manage when they're handled the same way each time. You can limit transport when possible. I know that's not always possible for everyone, but limit it when possible. Long hauls just increase muscle fatigue and stress, which then negatively impacts tenderness. Now, all of this isn't just about doing the right thing. It's also about protecting our bottom line, kind of like what I talked about earlier. So let me put it into perspective. Dart cutting beef costs us anywhere from $165 to $200 per head. Bruising and carcass trim loss from the poor handling can take up to 1 to 2% off the total value of the carcass. And lower marbling means lower yield grades, which could be the difference between choice and select pricing. And that means up to $20 per hundredweight difference. We can't afford to leave this kind of money on the table. So here's the thing. We're already doing a lot of things right. But the best operations, the ones that keep pushing forward and improving, are the ones that keep on getting better. The way that we handle cattle from day one matters, and the beef industry relies on us to get it right. Better handling just means better beef. Better beef means a stronger consumer confidence. Stronger consumer confidence means a healthier, more sustainable beef industry for each and every one of us. The cattle industry is stepping up their game. Now it is your turn to do the same. We have the power to improve the quality of beef right here on our ranches every single day. Thank you guys so much for listening to another podcast. We hope to see you tomorrow. If you enjoyed today's podcast, please go leave us a rating, review, make sure you subscribe, and check out our show notes for more. We'll see y'all tomorrow.